Alright, thanks for tuning in, people. Nice to see some people watching the last video of the black and white edit, which was great. So what we're going to do today is have a look at the recent image I put up of the organ pipes, which are found on the, I guess, the lower half of Mt Wellington. It's the big rock formation you can see from pretty much anywhere around Hobart. If you haven't been to Hobart before, it's pretty close by. It's about 10-15k drive up to this spot, and then a bit of a walk. I did a bit of an adventure video on this that's up there on YouTube as well. So what we're going to do is just go through how I edited this one. Again, nothing too crazy about the edit, just a pretty natural shot that I've done. A little bit of playing around, a little bit of local contrast, a bit of graduation, filter, exposure adjustments, and not a great deal, but hopefully we'll get to the end of it and it looks similar to how I posted it the other day. So as you can see, we always start off with the top here, how I've shot it. So F11, again, focused on the tree or little shrub here and the rock. That's a pretty dominant feature. And then you've got the background of these mighty peaks, which are a good couple hundred meters tall. ISO 100, obviously to keep the grain or the noise down as maximum as possible, and using the 7-14mm Olympus lens, 2.8 Olympus lens, that equates to a 14-28 in normal full sensor size or 35mm size. So this is shot at about 22mm now. It's a bit precarious at the location where I was shooting. These rocks are super slippery. A lot of these actual big boulders move a lot. Every time I seem to step on one, they move. So I'm sort of hanging halfway off a cliff here to get this angle that I wanted to shoot back up with these big shoots here. So it's a bit of a tight angle, and the final image I'll probably crop a bit. I'm not a huge fan of going into Photoshop and cloning a lot of these things out. I tried to clone this stick out for a while, and these bits here, it just became a bit of a nightmare. So what I ended up doing is just cropping a lot of that out. But we'll get into it, and hopefully you'll see what I mean at the end of it. Alright, so as per usual, what we do is I always turn on the highlight and shadow clipping areas, so we just know, I can see that that's already been blown out, but not a big issue. I'm happy for that sky to be blown out. It sort of adds to that effect of those shoots leading into the sky. Sort of gives that sort of space appeal there. So not too worried about that. Not too much shadow detail lost. There's a lot of dark bits down here, but it still wasn't too bad. I'm just going to take that off for the moment because it's quite annoying with that red on there. So the first thing I wanted to do with this image is, I guess, whenever I'm shooting, I always take note of what the conditions are like. So if it's warm or it's windy or it's cold or stormy or if it's, a bit of everything. Sometimes you can sort of match that color temperature or the color feel of your image to match that feel. This is about 3 degrees Celsius when I did this. So the first thing I was going to do is I'm obviously not going to warm it up because that would not represent what was happening there. So probably going to drop it down and maybe just cool it down a bit to give it a bit of a bluer tinge, make it a bit colder. So automatically you can see there's a little bit of chill in the air. Everything becomes a bit more bluer. Exposure wise, off the bat, the exposure is pretty good. Like apart from that sky which is blown out, as you can see with the clipping there, nothing else has really gone too wrong. So we've got a good palette of exposure there to work with. Obviously this is the dominant feature of these rocks, and these are just a bit of a highlight in the background. So exposure wise, probably just looking, it wasn't too bad. Probably leaving it where it is at the moment. Needs a bit of contrast here. There's a lot of detail and a lot of tonal ranges through this image where I'd like to see them sort of separate a bit more. So a bit more contrast. You can sort of see straight away that we get a bit of separation there. So things become a bit more separated. The shadows through the tones and through the highlights seem to really separate quite nicely. Working down, as I said on all my videos, I generally work from top to bottom. Highlights I won't touch just yet. I always come back to this bit area last. Always add a little bit of clarity, maybe a +5 clarity, not touching the saturation or the vibrance yet. The tonal curve or the contrast curve, again, just keeping an eye. Again, we probably turn the highlight bar on. The more we play around with that, the bigger things we'll get. But I guess my main concern, as I said, the sky isn't a concern for me. I actually don't mind that blown out, and I'm happy to have that blown out. What's a bit of a concern down here is these rocks. There's a nice bit of detail in these rocks, so I don't want to blow that out too much. You can actually see there's quite a lot of detail in this mossy area there. So I'm probably not going too far, maybe a +15 in the highlights. Shadows, again, being wary of this foreground bit here. It's already quite dark as it is. If we start going too dark, you'll see that those shadows just really fall away. So again, not doing too much. I don't mind having a little bit of detail in this underside of the rock here. I'll probably end up cropping a lot of this bit out down the bottom. It's a bit of dead space, so don't need to worry about it too much. Talking about we're doing a colour one this time as compared to the last one, which was black and white. This one, the saturation channel or the luminance channel, so you can actually change around the brightness on the luminance. You can change the colour luminance, or I guess a more easier way of saying is the brightness of those colours. So for example, if we play around with the green, you'll see at the top of this little shrub here that it really just sort of pops up a bit. So we'll probably jump the green up a bit. And having a look at what other dominant colours are in this, there's obviously a bit of orange or rustic sort of colours here, and maybe a bit of brown and orange through these rocks, but the most colour here is the green. But we'll play around a little bit with the cliff faces. You can sort of see down the bottom here when we play around with the orange. There's a little bit of adjustment there. And obviously there's a bit of blue as well. You can see there's a fair bit of blue based on the temperature there, but I actually want that sky blown out, as I've said, so I probably won't touch too much of that. And the rest of it looks pretty good. I'll just turn that back off so it's not annoying. So moving down, I generally import my sharpness at a set setting, which is 50 sharpening and about a +10 of noise reduction, and that's just to help sharpen that image up. And if you are shooting at high ISOs, the noise reduction just sort of helps, I guess, smooth that grain out that you do get at the high ISO. Even though this is ISO 100, I always just do it as a habit. The vignetting I'll leave to the end. So what I'm probably going to do now is just go back up to the top and just check to see if that exposure, if I'm happy with it. You can go down darker, you can start seeing that those top of those shoots come into play. But if you go up a bit higher, like I said, I actually like that sort of vanishing, that shoot vanishing into the top there. So that's pretty good. What I would do is I'll probably play around with this area a bit here, probably a little bit down here as well, and there's a few other little adjustments I'll do. So I'll show you what I did there. The first thing I do is I generally grab the gradient filter. I'm not a huge fan of using neutral density filters or gradient filters out in the field. This shot doesn't have any filter on at all. It's just pure, no polarizer, just straight in the lens, straight out onto the sensor. I could easily chuck a big filter on the front of it to do the graduated filter effect, but it was drizzly and it was quite wet and foggy. It was just going to create a nightmare of rain spots and speckles on the filter, so I decided not to. So what I'm going to do, I'll do it in Lightroom as well. So what we're doing is, for those that don't know, a gradient filter is pretty much a filter that runs from either top or bottom of the frame, and if we turn on the mask overlay, you'll see that what it does, it goes from darker to gradient. It graduates its way through, and you can actually adjust how far you want that a gradient to go through the frame. All I want to do at the moment is just on the top of those cliff faces there. I just want to grab a bit of that. So I'm only sort of really affecting that first sort of half or 2/3 of that area there. And what I want to do is just drop the exposure a little bit. Probably, again, just add a bit more contrast in there. And again, just sort of go with a bit of a blue tinge, just to cool it down a bit. So I'm not talking much, but just enough to sort of create that sort of real wintry look. I think that's pretty good. I don't know about we don't want to go too far. Still want to keep that outline of the cliff face there looking okay. So that's about right there. The other thing you might want to try is the dehaze slider. So if you dehaze it, it just sort of gets rid of more of the haze out of there. I don't use it too much because it can be addictive where you sort of go too much and it looks pretty crappy. So again, just using it in small bursts, so maybe even just like a +15 or say a +20, just to sort of give a bit more definition to that edge of the cliff faces and create a bit more mood there. I can already see that this little tree on top of the cliff face there up here, which is pretty dramatic. It's a bit more separated now. You can sort of see it a bit more. Well, it's a crazy spot to have a tree, and this whole area has got some crazy compositions to look for. So that's looking pretty good at the top there. What I don't like here at the moment, it's still a bit dark down here because we did the overall adjustment of the exposure. I'm just finding it's a tad dark all over through this foreground. Again, a graduated filter, you don't have to run them from the top. You can also run them down from the bottom, so you can graduate from the bottom up, which is what I do a little bit too, just to balance that scene out a bit. So again, just to show you where I'm sort of dragging that filter up to, I'm probably going to go up to this line of trees here, which I think is where that sort of goes towards the darkness. So just there, and probably just lightening up just a little bit. So we're only going half a stop of exposure there, just to really bring a bit more detail. This thing comes to life. This bit of tougher shrubs here comes to life. A bit of moss here. This bit under a bit of the stone here looks nicer. Again, you could also add a little bit of dehaze in there if you wanted to. Again, I don't go crazy with it because it can be a bit of a nightmare. I may look at maybe warming that area up just a bit of whether or not that would work or not. Just adding a bit of warmth into that foreground just so it's not so cold and wet. And yeah, I reckon that's pretty good. So automatically, if we have a look and see what we've done, where we've come from, that was pretty flat. We've got some nice sort of haze going up here. It's nice and cold. There's some beautiful detail on this tree here and on the rock here, and some really nice detail in the shadow here. Again, as I said at the start, this tree is a pain in the ass, and these shrubs are just as bad. So I'm going to fix them up at a later date, which I'll show you. So going back to it, the next thing I'd probably do is just some more local contrast adjustments and exposure adjustments. So again, these cliff faces are quite dramatic. So what I want to do is I actually want to paint a bit along these cliff faces, and this is quite sort of a rough, but you know, most of the time it's how I do it. A lot of that just in here, just along there, in there, just covering that whole spot. And what I want to do is just add a bit more contrast in there. You can sort of see, you can see that adjustment there just by if I slide it to the extreme. Somewhere in the middle is where I want it. Just really want to start cutting through that fog, just so you can really see those shoots of rock there. So somewhere around about there looks pretty good. Yep. So in here you can see there's a bit more detail along this bit here. The fog's still looking really nice. You've got some nice definition up here of the cliff face. Again, we haven't adjusted anything down here. It's just that localized contrast. Something else that's catching my eye in this image is this area through here. Could be just a bit too light. This looks a bit too even towards this plant. It's sort of like blending in. So again, I'll bring the local brush in and probably just paint, if that's going to work. Oops, sorry, yeah, paint it in there, and just give that, maybe just drop that down in exposure value just a little bit, just so it doesn't distract, sort of separates that plant at the front that we want. So you can sort of see that's dropping down in value there. It's sort of become obsolete now. It's there, but it's not causing a huge issue. And the only other place I would probably look at, I'm a bit worried about here. For some reason my mouse cursor has gone a bit funny. Let me shut that down and start again. That's better. These bits of highlights on the rock here are quite distracting. So again, with the local brush, making it a bit smaller, I'd probably just paint down here a bit, and anywhere else on the rocks that I'll just that I can see that are a little bit distracting with their highlights. The top of this rock here is quite bright. So really just that whole section through there is a bit bright. So again, using that brush, I can drop the exposure value a little bit down on there, not too much, but probably play around with the highlights as well, the highlight slider. You can see that drops right off, so it sort of becomes a non-distracting feature to the foreground as compared to what it was. So again, looking to and from, before and after, So we've created some really nice mood in here. There's some beautiful mood up here. This is exposed quite well. There's enough detail. You can see like the granite, the particles, everything in there is quite nice. Like I said, we're going to probably play around with that cropping in a second, but that's not too bad. Maybe just have a look at the exposure again. Overall exposure, maybe just up it a tad. That's a bit better. I really like the light on this bit, and you can see little water droplets all on there. You want them highlighted as much as you can. So pretty much what I was doing with this one, it was going to be obviously put onto Facebook and Instagram. So I thought, instead of playing around with it for hours to get rid of these bits here, I thought I'd just crop it in that format for Instagram, which is a square format. So what I did, I just pretty much got to a point where I was pretty happy with what I was seeing, getting rid of those trees on the side, something along those lines, where I was just, and this is just pure laziness, that you can spend hours and hours and hours on post editing, but sometimes you don't need to. Sometimes you just be a bit smarter about it. Crop that image out. It actually brings this plant really into the foreground of being the actual true hero of that shot, and then you've got the cliff faces behind, just to add some real drama to that scene. Again, going down to the bottom here, we'd probably add some vignetting now once we've done the crop. We don't want to darken it too much up here, but you probably want to just add a little bit of vignetting just to make sure that that eye drives into this tree, it gets drawn in. The other thing I like to do as well is down at the bottom there's these different blue, green and red primary adjustments that you can do. This is a trick that one of the AIPP wedding photography guys taught me, just to add a little bit of that in there, just on the blue channel only, just sort of makes the colours a bit more vibrant. They jump a little bit. So yeah, we've got something pretty dramatic going on there. It may be a tad too blue. Maybe I'll bring that overall temperature back a bit, just so it doesn't look like it's too blue. Something along those lines. And that'd be pretty much how I edited it. Yeah, I don't think there was too much else I did with that. So again, just it was a really tricky shot. Where I was standing was, it was balancing the tripod on 3 different rocks of all different angles, and it just became a bit of a nightmare. I only literally took, if I show you down here, I took 6 images for this whole walk. It took me an hour and a half to get here and took 6 images, and all of them were just of this same shot. But it was just really, really tricky. So pretty much, I think that was the end one I did. So you can see that's the one I posted compared to one we just did. So it's probably not as blue, but the rest of it's fairly similar. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes you might walk for hours and walk for days in some situations to try and find some shots, and you might just get that one shot. This worked really well because of the weather that was there, which is why I went up there, up to Mount Wellington. But yeah, sometimes you just got to keep an eye out on what's good looking, and capture it with your camera. This is on the way back down. I'd almost given up, thinking that I wasn't going to get what I was looking for, and I just happened to see this tree on the way down, and it seemed to work. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to hear any comments you've got down the bottom. Any questions or any questions you need answered, please don't hesitate to ask. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks.